this is still all chapter 6 stuff, so the chapter 8 stuff that we're doing will be on test 3. Meanwhile, let's take a look at problem 22. This one is also the quadratic denominator. You can factor this, of course, and you'll have t and t squared plus 1. And so another thing that you can do, you don't necessarily have to do it the way that I have done it here. If you notice, the derivative of t cubed is the 3t squared. And the derivative of t would be 1. So you could split the 4 here into 1 plus 3. You could rewrite this 3t squared plus t plus 3 plus 1 if you wanted. And so you could make this into 2 integrals. The 3t squared and a 1 out of this as a numerator, and this as a denominator. Then if this is u, this is your du, and then that would leave you this t and the other 3 out of the 4 over the original t cubed plus t, which you could write factored. So you could get this integral without worrying about partial fractions, and then worry with the partial fractions for this fraction, t plus 3 over t times t squared plus 1. The advantage of doing that would be that this is first power instead of square, and so your fractions are going to be simpler things to manage. If you were going to use maple, you wouldn't bother with all that, because if you use maple, you can just say convert par frac for the original problem, or you could get maple to do the integral, type int, and be done with it as far as that goes. Come up with the number. You notice this thing is a definite integral. So what I've done then is to split the problem, and this first part, 3t squared plus 1 dt over t cubed plus t, is du over u. So I've gone ahead and done my du over u part. See, I get limits on u because it's a definite integral. So when t is 1 and u is t cubed plus t, u would be 2, 1 cubed plus 1. And so I have that down here. And when t is square root 3, and this is the u, I have 3 times square root of 3 out of the cube, and then I have another square root of 3 there, so that's 4 of them. So my limits on u would be 2 to 4 root 3. And so then I get log u, and between the limits, and so that'll be log 4 root 3 minus log 2, and that will give me, remember the difference of the logs is the log of the quotient, so it's log of 4 root 3 over 2, and that's log 2 root 3. So my answer from this first part is log 2 root 3, which I'll eventually be using up here to get the final answer. So I don't want to lose it altogether. Meanwhile, let's work with this part where we would do partial fractions. The point is that this is a simpler fraction to work with than the original. That's what I'm gaining by splitting the problem up this way. I think it's a reasonable way to look at things if you're going to do this by hand. As I've already said, if you're using machinery, then it doesn't make any difference. Just let the machinery do what it will do. Get my sign-up sheet.